Now, Daily Graphic is starting the morning. AG to decide fate of Ofosu Ampofo. He's charged with conspiracy to kidnap and threat of harm. That's the big one. And also Charles Bisu interrogated by police CID. It's on the front page of the Daily Graphic. GJA, West African nobles, condemn attacks on journalists. That's the Daily Graphic. The Daily Guide, CID charges 3 NDC gurus over leaked tape, photograph of Mr. Ofosu Ampofo here. And then the 2 men who assaulted the police officer in handcuffs, cop beaters arrested. And Otumfuo launches 20th anniversary. The Times continues that story of attacks on journalists, assault of 3 Ghanaian Times journalists, prosecute errant policeman or policemen, Sraj demands as police promise to take action. Also, a photograph of the 2 men who beat the police officer also on the front page. The finder goes to the Central Region, University of Education, Winneba. Calm restored. 3 dismissed lecturers to be reinstated. Payment to 6 other dismissed staff to be considered. And Sraj demanding the arrest and prosecution of police officers who assaulted journalists. Government condemns attack on journalist police. Those are some of the stories I have with me this morning. My guest to do the talking is the Deputy Minister of Information, Honorable Pius Hadzide. You can look at the finder this morning. On page 5, it talks about a government condemning the attack on the Ghanaian Times journalist, and then the attack by discussions and asked the editor to write to the ministry so that efforts will be made to speed up investigations into the matter for the necessary disciplinary sanctions to be taken against the culprits. Now, he condemned also a viral video circulating on social media showing a police officer being attacked. This administration will and bring the perpetrators to book. He urged the police administration to expedite action on the 2 incidents. He added that government has told also the feuding factions in Chereponi that violence is not the path for resolving any challenge in society. That's part of the conversation that he had. But others, we can also find Sraj demanding arrest and prosecution of police officers. And the police also suggesting that they're investigating alleged assault on Ghanaian Times journalist. Again, the GJ is asking or calling for the arrest and prosecution of Reverend Owusu Bempah. And I'm sure these are all stories that you know. Pius, let's start our conversation whilst we wait for the rep from the NDC, the Member of Parliament for the Ningo Pram constituency, Sam George. Now, perhaps is the condemnation and the demand for prosecution, is it getting the proper attention?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning to you and to the cherished viewers of TV3 this morning. I think that this is a particularly important subject for discussion, and for somebody coming from the Ministry of Information, the attachment we have to this story is clearly articulated by the Honourable Minister's position. An attack on anybody is to be condemned, and an attack on journalists particularly has to be condemned. Journalists are an important part of our democratic experiment, our socio-economic development. The role that journalists play cannot be underestimated. It is therefore without doubt the reason why the institution of journalism, the media, is referred to as the fourth estate of the realm. The first 3 being the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. You have been elevated. The institution of journalism you have been elevated beyond that, because the gatekeepers, you play the roles of the whistleblowers, you inform the public about what it is that the government of the people continue to use resources for. Take our we need the media to be able to explain it to the people of Ghana. The NAPCO that we have brought to resolve the daunting challenge of graduate unemployment, which we inherited, we need the media to explain it. And even the challenges that we have faced and we are fixing. The challenge of the power outages that we experienced a couple of days back. We need the media to explain that it was because of the project around Pokwase that the 330 kilovolt transmission lines had to be tampered with and redirected, and that caused some backflow, and some of them therefore tripped. A mechanism that is inbuilt to safeguard the production plants themselves. We need the media to be able to explain this. Otherwise, there would have been panic. And there would have been a lot of misunderstanding, and the fallouts may be difficult. When we had the challenge of the accidents around the Medina-Adenta route, it took the intervention of the media to restore calm. And so, as the ministry, we are very much concerned about how we can create a conducive environment for journalists, for media workers to do their work unhindered. And let me also inform that under the instructions of the Honorable Minister, we have started consultations with stakeholders, important stakeholders, to see about establishing a national coordinating mechanism demands for that.
Right.
The African Union has adopted this United Nations Action Plan, and several international treaties, agreements have been advocated to ensure that countries, sovereign states, state countries, put together national mechanisms for ensuring the safety of journalists. We want to take the lead in the West African sub-region to establish that here first. Other countries have it. I know that Kenya, for instance, has established that kind of coordinating mechanism. It involves people from the legislative, the judiciary, the executive, the police, and all the security forces, media people, media training institutions, civil service, civil society, and human rights groups, and so on and so forth. Because there has been situations where there has been a lot of controversy on whether journalists were assaulted in their line of duty or they were assaulted doing other things. And the fact that you are a journalist does not give you impunity, or no, does not give you immunity from police action. And so we have to draw the line between what is it that we deem as an affront on a journalist and what is not. I mean, and the line has to be drawn about when it is that it concerns their work.
Right.
And so the mechanism will interrogate all this matter. In fact, even persons and media watchers, certain number, so number of journalists have been assaulted, and the security agencies will contradict. No, we need a central, neutral body of all stakeholders to interrogate these matters and to settle these matters once and for all. We also need these bodies to pursue and follow up. For instance, a journalist has been assaulted in the line of duty. We have all agreed on that. The matter has gone to court. It's been lying there in court for 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 years. Who follows up? Who makes sure that the institutions. And we believe that once we have that coordinating mechanism on which is represented the judiciary, then at the sittings or meetings of that coordinating group, questions can be asked and answers can be generated as a means of following up. So government practical steps to ensure that journalists feel free, and so on and so forth, and that when there are disagreements, these matters can be settled around the platform that the media is actually also represented. In most cases, for instance, yes, in court you make your case through your lawyer and so on and so forth. But if there is that coordinating mechanism that gives the journalists, that gives the police, that gives everybody, the military, all of us who are involved, gives us the open space and the kind of that can be conducive to free interaction, it will be one the legal, constitutional, and prosecutorial ways that are already set out in our law. It is not a replacement. Okay. This is merely
so it's only to enhance what we intend to do. Absolutely. So, for instance, if someone should argue that perhaps the journalist get assaulted on his or her line of duty and does not get that speedy prosecution, and so what you're talking about is to come in and ensure that
that's right.
That thing is done.
That's right.
How should some of these things be stopped? Some have suggested, for instance, that in certain cases, the cases are sent out and then there is an agreement that let's go and settle the case between the two of us. The suggestion by some is that when it continues to happen that way, then the infractions or the assault on journalists will continue. Is the state not ready to, once it is a criminal case, the state not ready to go into prosecution, even if the two of them agree that let's go and settle this case, I have rendered an apology and that should end it?
Well, I know that alternative dispute resolution does exist. I also know that a criminal case is the state versus, but the state needs to prove its case.
Right.
And to prove its case beyond any reasonable doubt, because it's a criminal case. And so questions of witnesses and witness statements arise. And in my view, I'm not a lawyer, but in my ordinary view, I believe that the first point of call or the strongest witness that the state can make in the case of an assault is the victim, who can testify to being assaulted. And if the victim agrees to a settlement and does not cooperate with the police and does not want to come to court and to testify, the state's case can be fundamentally affected. And so that is where...
If the witness is not ready to testify.
Absolutely. And that is where I believe that as a supplementary follow-up, this thinking that the world at large has, that the African Union has adopted, that countries, even in Africa, are already implementing, can also supplement. Because sometimes people even feel threatened. If I pursue this matter, I am even further endangering my life and so on and so forth. But if they know that there is an independent third party which is watching and which is taking all proactive steps, but that's another thing. I am very keen, and we are as a government on the safety of journalists. Another issue that is related to the safety of journalists is the kind of journalism. And I want to, for instance, if you listen to the issue involving Reverend Owusu Bempah and Marcel Mugabe of Radio XYZ, from what I have heard, the action of the Reverend is condemnable, and I do condemn it.
You have seen the video?
I have not, but I condemn it. I think that there can always be civilized ways or more civilized ways of expressing dissatisfaction. And even taking the legal processes as enshrined in our laws, so on and so forth. So that's of the coin. The other side of the coin is that I have been listening. It is quite shameful, and fair-minded journalists should watch and speak against these tendencies, because it seeks to devalue the whole essence of journalism and brings down the kind of good work that several other journalists are doing. You cannot have the microphone before you. You cannot have the platform, and all you seek to do is to run down persons and sometimes use openly insulting language, stupid, idiot, foolish, nonsense. I mean, these kinds of unprintable words are not, never mind for me, the unsubstantiated allegations, the several untruths, the lies that openly are being told. But at least they can be told in if you may, decent and what is referred to as parliamentary language. I mean, if on the floor, there's a wisdom in saying that of the realm should also take you. You cannot sit on radio and openly insult people. I would not react in the manner that maybe the Osofo reacted, but we react to things differently, and that is why there's a law to regulate us. And that's why I'm saying that maybe we should all seek to control our temper. But you go to Rwanda, for instance. I mean, one of the major causes of the killings, the massive killings that we witness cockroaches, and you challenge people to kill the cockroaches, and so on and so forth, and it led to genocide, killings of ethnic proportions. And so it is not and so on and so forth. It goes beyond that. It touches our national cohesion. It touches at the peace and tranquility that we are enjoying today as a people. And so if you sit behind your microphone and all you think you are doing is partisan politics, all you think you're doing is pleasing your paymasters, if there are any, all you think you're doing is exciting a small constituency of the Ghanaian population, then you are not, I'm sorry, but you are not practicing journalism. You are doing something else, and that cannot be journalism. And so, if for me, you are targeted and assaulted, as condemnable as it is, as unconstitutional as it is, the questions will arise therefore, and genuinely, that can you be classified also as a journalist, and we refer to your assault or your alleged assault as an assault on journalism. Once there's an agreement that what you are doing is not journalism.
What role, for instance, your ministry, in one way or the other, is linked to the media? So, for instance, what you're talking about, what role can your ministry play in dealing with these kinds of things on radio, on TV, and even in the newspapers?
Well, the law established the National Media Commission that has to do the standards assurance, if you may. And yes, the ministry, we are responsible for the general conducive environment within which the media operate, because we advocate policy for and on behalf of the whole environment. But I also intimated to you right now that the National Media Commission does the role of the quality assurance and so on and so forth. And so we'll continue to do that. When the criminal libel, which was at the forefront of, if you may, disabling journalists from really and truly doing their work, because you were scared where you would fall foul of the law. And so that was a major disincentive to the practice of journalism. Even though it took the then Attorney General and the current President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to actually table the motion in Parliament for a repeal of that law, I am well aware that the Ministry of Information also played a major advocacy, at least around the cabinet table, for the repeal of the law. If you check the RTI, which is under parliamentary consideration right now, the Ministry of Information, we continue to make important inputs, because we recognize that we superintend the whole environment of media, and that the freedom of the media should be critical to us. And that's why if you read the minister's comments, he says that he has challenged the management and the editor of the Ghanaian Times to write to the ministry, gives us the impetus and the locus, therefore, to pursue the matter further. So we are expecting that the editor and management of the Times will write officially to the ministry, and when we receive that, we will follow it up with the police and ensure that justice is done for the people who allegedly were assaulted.
If someone says that perhaps what you're talking about, the practice of journalism, some of which the ministry isn't happy about, if someone wants to blame the ministry for perhaps not directly or indirectly able to ensure quality assurance, how would you react to it?
No, I mean, and it is for good reason that the arrangement is made such that the executive arm of government and the ministry superintending that does not have direct control over standards and over content.
But indirectly, you could play a role.
Well, we play a role in the general establishment of a free, a transparent, and a conducive environment for the media. Content and standards, discussion of the editorial of some basic values are vested in the National Media Commission, which is independent, which is not directly the executive, because I foresee that there's a fear that because it is popular suffrage, voting and the choice of the people, that elects the executive, and the media play a critical role in shaping public opinion. If too much powers, if those powers were vested in the executive, they'll be using it with a view to getting people to vote for them, and so tilting content in a certain direction. And I think it's fair that that power is vested in an independent third party, the National Media Commission. But of course, because we are industry players, we consider ourselves a major stakeholder, and we also keep a keen eye on the standards. And regrettably, it is looking like for some media houses and media practitioners, an example is the one that I just gave you, Mugabe, Mase, and the XYZ, that particular program. It is becoming problematic. And if you define journalism to all intents and purposes, what I see happening is not journalism. And so we should watch it so that we can avoid such condemnable actions from Reverend Owusu Bempah.
Quickly before we take a break, the GJ says that the Reverend Owusu Bempah must be arrested.
Well, of course, nobody can be elevated above the law. If what happened is an aberration of the law, if it is against the law, then the law must take its full course. We cannot attempt that because we have described a conduct of a program or even a media person to be below the standards, and somebody has been behaving unethically. When wrong, it is wrong. And I have said that for me, the manner in which the Osofo chose to express his dissatisfaction, his disagreement with the program and the gentleman who manages the program is not the right way, and we should not encourage it.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll take a look at some other issues whilst I get my other guest to join us. Stay there. We're coming back in a moment. Right, grateful for your time with us once again, and thanks for staying there for us. Now, let's touch quickly on this story. We're told that calm has been restored to the University of Education, Winneba. 3 dismissed lecturers to be reinstated, and payment to 6 other dismissed staff to be considered. A photograph of the Education Minister plus the MP for Efutu and some other persons involved. The man whose vice chancellorship has seen all that smiling photograph there, suggesting that all is well. Honourable Sam George, let me quickly introduce you. Thanks so much for joining us. He's a member of Parliament for the Ningo Pram constituency. Good morning once again, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, my brother, and good morning to our viewers. Apologies for getting here.
Right. Now, Winneba, the school is closed, but the news is that all is well. Now, the Vice Chancellor is still in office. We're told about some concerns from the alumni and some other organizations suggesting that the Vice Chancellor should step aside. Can the Vice Chancellor remain in office, and can we have that environment to continue academic work?
Well, let's state without equivocation that the issues in University of Education, Winneba, have been occasioned by political interference in the works of a public university. I mean, all the chaos that you see going on in University of Education, Winneba, have been, anybody who's followed the news and anybody who doesn't want to play the ostrich.
Political interference in there?
You saw the way Aboke and Co were kicked out. You saw the hand of political players, government, in the removal of and other. Even without the resolution, full resolution of the matter, there was the investiture of, is it Broniafo?
Right.
As Vice Chancellor. And it's full circle. I mean, Kama is a beautiful lady. She's visited again, very short period. You know, at first people used to say that posterity will judge you, and we used to think that posterity was a very far time off. This is less than an hour, a year. And you can see the full cycle. You see the kind of violence that was visited on the campus just over the weekend, or I think on Friday. You've seen the fallout between hitherto lovers, in quotes, the MP for the area, and Broniafo, how the orchestration to get out the Vice Chancellor at the time and some senior staff, and how all of that has gone around full circle. This is clearly evidence of the fact that universities, public universities, even though the state has a stake in it, when it comes to the processes for running those universities, that's why their charters always make them autonomous, give them a certain level of autonomy. The state should stay away from University of Education, Winneba. Politicians should get their hands out of University of Education, Winneba, and allow the university structures take care and address the issues. They're critical, fundamental issues. When you listen to the SRC, when you listen to the student body, when you listen even to faculty, some senior members of faculty, they have fundamental issues with the style of leadership, the new leadership, and how all of those transitions happen. What you see is a window dressing system. You've got a saw. The saw is deep. It's gone beyond the surface. It's deep tissue. And what you've done now is you've just applied dressing on top without addressing what's under there. Yeah, so you may have fine skin on the surface, but it's getting rotting in there. And if you're not careful, amputation is going to be the only way to fix that malaise. And that's exactly what you see in Winneba. This is just face saving. The issues in Winneba run deeper. The students are not happy. Faculty is not happy. Previous management staff are not happy. The dismissals have been extrajudicial, if I want to use that phrase, because they've not followed down the laid down statutes and principles of the university and the laws of natural justice. And so you see, even some of the decisions that the Vice Chancellor took, he's been asked to reverse, because everybody admits and accepts that the high-handed manner in which, and it's simply because he feels I've got political backing. I mean, I came in here, the president himself came to do my investiture. Even when there were issues surrounding how I was becoming vice chancellor, he got a stamp of legitimacy from the Flagstaff House. And so, you know, it's giving him a certain level of impudence to run the university like it's a private entity. But the university is a public university. There are charters, there's a charter for the university, there are laid down rules. It's sad that a prestigious institution like University of Education, Winneba, will be brought down to an object of political football. Very sad. As politicians, we must learn to, we can't keep tainting everything in this country. Pius, myself, we need to just take a back seat and let technocrats run their business.
Pius, he's alleging that, I mean, government hand is what has brought us where we are.
Well, I think that it's disappointing that such fundamental commentary will be made without any shred of evidence. Not even the basic logical inductions can support the claim that has been made. If the system today is responsible for the removal of Avoke and bringing in Afro-Broni, how come today that system and Afro-Broni are at loggerheads? And he mentions names such as the member of parliament for the area, who sees himself a stakeholder because the institution is in his constituency, and he wants to get involved in actions that affect a strategic part of his constituency. Is that what is being interpreted as state intervention, governmental intervention? That cannot be correct. The people who took the matter to court when Avoke was vice chancellor, were they members of this government? Definitely not. Were they commissioned by this government? Definitely not. Yes, there may have been some underlying factors, disagreements between faculty, between students and faculty, amongst faculty themselves, and so on and so forth in the past. And those issues have continued today. I do not see the introduction of this political interference to the extent that it is being suggested that the president was invited as a guest to the investiture means that the president installed Avoke as vice chancellor. My brother knows that the president does not have such powers, such as an installation of a vice chancellor. It's not grounded in any law. The president cannot do that.
Some have suggested that.
Whether the president invited, I'm saying that whether it is a non-issue, it is the most uninformed position to take. Whether the president was present at that investiture or not, Afro-Broni after that event would have been vice chancellor, and he would not have had any less powers than when the president attended that investiture. The president, it does not. It does not. It does not. I'm saying that if the president had not attended Afro-Broni's investiture as an invited guest, the powers that Afro-Broni had would not have been reduced any less. So whether the president attended the investiture or not is neither here nor there. And the president is respectful, he's humble, and he feels that the institution of University of Education invites me to attend the investiture. And he even seizes the opportunity in his speech as guest of honor to advocate for peace and the need for whichever disagreements or factions, for want of a better expression, exist, should sit around the table and behave it's exactly what they are doing with this EUW thing. I will not accept the position that my brother Sam George does not know that whether the president attended that investiture or not, Alfred Bruni was going to be vice chancellor.
So you
that
think
the president was not involved?
You think there was
the president was not involved in the selection?
There was no politics in what happened at Winneba.
I do not know what the classification of politics is.
Political interference.
I do not see any.
Okay.
I do not see any at all.
Where a regional security council closes a school and the member of parliament says the school is not closed. You do
but
not
the school is closed. The member of parliament is the member of parliament. He does not hold executive power. He's not, as it were, the state that we are being talked to, the state intervention, political intervention. If my brother wants to make the case that the member of parliament is getting involved too much, he can make that point and he can be interrogated on that point. But to escalate that to mean state intervention is to play blind to, for instance, what the regional minister has done. Is to play blind to what the minister in charge of education has done. So you cannot, for anything, you cannot want to focus on the member of parliament to suggest governmental, state, or political interference. So and I think that the discussion has been deviated. I thought that we were going to deal with the issues.
Yeah, we're dealing with
but we have shifted from the issues and we are dealing with claims, unsubstantiated claims that
we have not shifted because perhaps we have not shifted because
we have been
if the vice chancellor is at post, these lecturers have been reinstated. We're told that some of them are supposed to be paid some amount of money. Now we're told also that the very thing that some people were removed, this same vice chancellor has done same.
For me, these are the main issues that must attract our attention. How is it that lecturers can be sacked without going through the laid down processes? If that was the case, and that appears to be the case, then whoever did that is wrong. And I think that the decision now to reverse those earlier decisions is justified, is right. And people can't turn themselves to be lost upon themselves. Yes, you may be the senior most person.
Is it not because they know what their foot is on?
Which is what? The only thing that
it could be the political interference.
No,
some judge was referring.
I'm saying to no. Why? We have seen disagreements in other places. This is not the only university that has had some challenges. You understand? I'm saying that Avoke himself, he was accused of what did he have his foot on? Can't make mistakes. People can go beyond the law, and we can point it out to them, and we can force them actually in accord with the rules to do the right thing. But to suggest no, I'll allow him to come in. I want us to have a discussion.
Samjot, come in. Let's wrap up on this.
You know, it's interesting that Pius starts his entire submission by saying that there is no logic. You can't find any basis for what I've said. However, he goes on to admit and accept that yes, there may have been some interference from state actors, individuals who are state actors, like the member of parliament.
But it doesn't make them.
I never said that.
He says that there might have been some from, let's say, the MP, but it cannot be extended to
the MP is a member of government.
Right. Okay.
He's an appointee of the president. He's a board chairman. So if I refer to him, I mean, so he's you can't. Okay.
The fact that he chairs a board.
No, but that is stretching the logic.
Okay. All right.
That is stretching the logic.
Okay.
It is let me dramatize this for you. If the board chairman goes to have an accident, runs his car into somebody else's car, by the stretch of that logic, we are saying that this one is the state is involved in that accident.
Okay.
I mean, it defies it for me.
You see, for me, Pius can sit here and play the ostrich, but then there's a certain form of, for want of a better expression, glaucoma that governance gives to politicians.
But you are in government.
They struggle
But it's not in government.
You understand me?
I'm
referring to the executive.
You allowed.
And see, when you were speaking, I was very quiet. You understand me? Look,
No, but I
you
see
can,
my
you
time, so I
can, you
take
can.
it back, John.
It's not your time.
I give my time
It's
to
his
you.
time.
I give my time
Paz,
to you. I
we
can take it
allow
back.
him. We're hitting
When I
the
give
top
my
of the
time, you are
hour.
now accusing
Please,
me.
Sam George, please go on. Go on.
Look,
Son, go.
if Paris sits here and tells the Ghanaian people that there was no political interference and there's been no political interference in the issues at Winneba, I'm sure the Ghanaian people are looking at him and laughing and wondering what he had for breakfast this morning. Because you see, it is clear as daylight that there is the hand of politics in what is going on in Winneba. And this is my problem. I mean, I want to see a different kind of politicking in this country.
He says you can't draw any link.
Don't tell me you can't draw any link. And you see, Pius sits here today, and I'm sure the Flagstaff House is not going to be very happy. That he tries to undermine and underplay the role and importance of the president attending a function. Tells us that the president's attendance of the investiture of Afo Broni is of no consequence.
What consequences?
Are you serious?
What's the consequence?
The president of the republic attends an event?
It adds more powers to Afro-Broni.
Well, that's fine.
No, but is that your understanding?
Well, your bosses are
No, but is
paying
that your
attention to it.
understanding?
But you see, then in that case, let us remove all the privileges that come with a president attending an event. If you want to tell me that it has no impact. But you see, when we go to the germane issues, when you go to the germane issues,
Paz, please allow him.
when you go to
Sam
the
George, go.
germane issues, when you build a culture of impunity, when you take people out with the use of political power and install new people, it doesn't mean
Insinuation.
that they can't fall out.
Insinuation.
Within political parties, haven't we seen fallouts? Even within a political party, even within the NPP, didn't you see a fallout between the general secretary, chairman, and the flag bearer at the time? So what is this logic that if Afo Broni was put there by political players, he can't fall out with them? And who says that? And who says that there's nothing going on? Have you seen the post by the member of parliament for that area that Afo Broni is sponsoring somebody to come and contest him, sponsoring people to slander him? Who says people have not fallen out? Who says people don't start a journey? Who says lovers don't fall out? Then we should not have divorce in marriage. I mean, what are you talking about? If even in marriage, people can fall out, then how can you suggest to me that people, politicians and academics who've gone into a marriage of an unholy matrimony of convenience cannot fall out along the way? Look, the issues are clear. Afo Broni is exerting powers beyond and over what his mandate as vice chancellor gives to him.
So say that.
Afo Broni is conducting himself in the same manner and in the same way in which, in fact, in excess of things that he accused Avoke in connivance with the member of parliament at the time of doing. They are doing worse. You accuse him of giving contracts. You come in and expand the scope of those contracts. You accuse him of handling faculty wrongly. So at the end of the day,
so these things that Sam George speaks of right now, are these the things that he calls political interference? You have just laid the claims. You have just made the allegations.
So
that these are the reasons why.
You let him land.
No, I'm saying.
Perhaps you will see the link.
We are just having a conversation. I give him my time. I can take small part of his time. I'm saying
you don't have time.
I'm saying that. You see,
no, this is a very serious allegation from the deputy information minister. Have you sold airtime to him for this morning show?
You were even surprised that I invited him.
Have you sold airtime to him for this morning show?
No, we have very little time.
I can also go and look for my common fund and come and buy some of the time.
No, we don't sell
that. It's mischief. You see the point I'm making?
Quickly.
My brother now makes the allegations of wrongdoing on the part of Afo Broni, based on which there are issues within the university community. He turns around to talk on the other side of his mouth and says that it's political interference. Is it political interference that is asking Afo Broni to conduct the wrongful acts that you yourself have just enumerated? So let's speak to the germane issues.
Political interference.
And the political interference is what you are doing.
Political interference.
What you are doing.
Political interference is what has given the impunity. The other vice chancellors in this country, who are not conducting themselves in that manner, because they went through the due process. You know, there's a suit that has even been initiated against Afuboni because the laid down chat processes, you spoke about the processes for appointing a vice chancellor, the search party, the advertisement of same, all of those processes were not undertaken. That is one of the allegations. Someone has gone to court. Someone has gone to court on the basis of that. You understand me? But you see, to show you the political interference and the level of it.
Okay, sure.
You saw even the assault, verbal assault, and threat of physical assault of 7 police officers by government actors. Again, all in this University of Education universe.
What is government actors?
Oh, you haven't seen the video. And the Ghana start getting beaten. When
I hope you're not endorsing assault on.
I am not, but I am calling the Ghana Police Service out because the Ghana Police Service is allowing politicians run down a very noble institution. All of us. This Ghana Police Service sat down and sat aloof. Myself, a serving member of parliament, and 17 other Ghanaians were assaulted by individuals we've identified for them. They've not even invited them. You understand me? They've not even invited. Relax. They have not even invited any of them for investigation. Right. You have a sitting member of parliament. Right. Go and assault a member of police, a police commander, and what do you see? You see the ASP Ekulu writing a long thesis. Right. On explaining what the police is not happy with. We don't pay the police service to come and explain the wrongdoings of government officers and sit aloof when people in the Ghanaian side of dispensing justice. You would see incidents like what is happening.
Absolutely. You see, Sam George.
Well, we couldn't talk about
yes,
Osu Ampafo's issue. They want to take somebody who is alleged, who has denied that he has not made this comment. Yet you have a member of parliament who sits on radio and does not make allegations, but goes out to ask for
sorry, no.
You can't stand up.
No, I've hit 8 o'clock. I'm wrapping up the conversation.
Your colleague
I am in charge of the show. It is time to wrap up.
Your colleague was killed after somebody went and sat on radio.
Gentlemen, I am grateful.
Has it gone out of hand?
Gentlemen, I am grateful. Gentlemen, I'm grateful.
So this is how you end on this shameful note. That's how you end.
Gentlemen, I am grateful.
You hijacked the program.
I am grateful. Para Sajide is Deputy Information Minister.
Right.
And Sam George is a member of parliament for Ningo Pram constituency. Gentlemen, I am grateful.